What's up everybody, it's Kyle, and in this video I want to show you how to make money right out of the gate with your real estate license. Whether you're doing it full-time or whether you're doing it part-time as a side hustle, I will show you how to make money right away. But before we go into this, subscribe below and hit the notification bell, as well as follow me on Instagram. I post there pretty much daily. So, as many of you know, my journey into this was I was following a passion and I got my real estate license. So I think that real estate is one of the best side gigs or careers in the entirety of everything. Because I think that you can make as much money as you want and work as many hours as you want, and your income will directly correlate with how much you're working. So some of you might know my story, and I started out, I wanted to be an actor, and I moved from Pennsylvania to New York City, and I just wanted to follow this acting dream. However, I was looking for the most flexible job I could find that was also lucrative, and also I felt like I could respect myself if it took 10, 15, 20 years to get stuff going with the acting. So coming into this, I thought that I was going to get into sales because that's what I was accustomed to in Pennsylvania. I didn't think you could really make money in rentals. However, when I got to this area, a major metropolitan area, I quickly realized that some of the people were churning out rentals right away, making quick buck and not even spending that much time on it. So instead of taking the time to do a sale and go for a couple of months without getting paid, and then hopefully it went through and you got paid on it, you could turn out a couple rentals in a week. So especially from where I was coming from, in a lower priced area in Pennsylvania where I could sell a place and it would take a couple months, and I could make the same exact money off of doing a rental and doing them much quicker, much easier, and much faster, and much more of an amount every month. So I started to get into that because really it was all about the money for me at that point. It wasn't about any kind of career or sales career I was building. So I got into the rentals, and I probably did about 25% of the work that I did for selling a house in Pennsylvania, and made that much, if not way more money, just for showing and renting an apartment. Sometimes I even just walked them right into the building, and the leasing office toured them around the building, rented it to them. I got a full month commission, which could be anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, and it would come right to me, and I wouldn't even do any of the move-in, move-out process. So it was such a seamless effort, and it was so quick, and we could churn them out very fast. So why I wanted to get into rentals right away was threefold. First of all, it was much less daunting than dealing with somebody's possibly biggest investment of their entire life. Sales were, sometimes that is the biggest purchase a person will ever make in their lifetime. So that was much less daunting to just be able to rent somebody an apartment. Two, I wouldn't even have to get the fee from the tenant a lot of the time, so they weren't even paying me anything. Sometimes I would just even walk somebody into a building and the management company would pay me the fee because the landlord would basically pay the fee for the tenant coming in. So it would not even be anything that the clients I was working with would have to pay me for. It was such an easy process. And three, because these companies, it was so much easier to get business, where instead of finding, clients here and there, I felt like it was so much easier since management companies, these people that would, sometimes have buildings of 300 units, they needed help finding renters for their place. So they would literally just give us the They would literally just give us the availability and basically have us post wherever we wanted to. If they gave us the go-ahead and they gave us the availability, we would basically just take pictures ourselves, post them on Craigslist or Postlets at the time, and it would feed out to tons of sites, and we would get calls immediately. So to break it down really easily, say you have a $2,000 apartment. Now, if that's on the market and then somebody from another company has that listed, you're gonna get half of that. So it's gonna be broken down 1,000 and 1,000 between their company and your company. Now, that also gets broken down again between your split and the split of the company. So if you're on a 50-50 split, that $2,000 apartment, you're getting 500. But having these open listings, which these management companies were giving us, we actually acted as the listing agent. So a $2,000 apartment now, even on a 50-50 split, you get half of that, that's $1,000. So let's say 2. I had the quick math to go, okay, so I rent out 2 at the minimum of $2,000, these management company listings. That's gonna be $1,000, $2,000 a week, which is $8,000 a month, which is $96 a year, $96K. And I was completely floored about this. So I started going right away and hitting this hard. So here's my 6-step process in making money right out of the gate in real estate as soon as you get your real estate license in rentals. Step 1, go find a management company somewhere. It might be in your town, or you might have to go out a little bit, that will give you a referral fee for bringing a client that rents there. Step 2, ask them if you can advertise. A lot of these places will let you take your own pictures and advertise anywhere. Craigslist is a big one, and that used to be the biggest one, but there's tons of different ones. Facebook Marketplace is now a new area that you can advertise and you will get clients for. There's tons of them. Step 3, answer the phone calls and emails that come in. Now, at the top of my game, I was doing 8 to 15 rentals a month by myself with no assistant. And I was only focusing on the buildings that were paying the full fee, and we were acting as the listing agent on these. So we were getting double-sided commission. Now, I would say I probably was at a closing ratio of 90%. And the reason why was because I was asking all the right pre-qualifying questions before we went out on the appointment. And I was really listening to the client, because it's not about renting them something that you want them to rent. It's really listening to what exactly they want and kind of acting like you're putting together a puzzle and you're trying to figure out where their wishes are going to fit into. So that was the main goal for going out on an appointment, to set that expectation, to know that everything we were going to was going to fit them perfectly, and it was just about which preference they wanted in an apartment. So step 4, set the appointment. As soon as you talk to them and start asking the pre-qualifying questions before you get off the phone or when you're writing the email, set the appointment. Why? Because subconsciously, they will have to break that appointment, and you kind of want that to be set in stone so that you know you have an appointment set up for them, and they have to reach out to cancel that if they want to. A lot of people won't. Step 5, follow up. If you go out on an appointment, the main thing, I would say that when my closing ratio wasn't 90%, or when it was 90% even, it wasn't always on the first time. It might have been the second time or in the follow-up, but 90% of the people that reached out, I would close, or that I ended up taking out in the first place, I would close, because it was always in the follow-up. It was always, if it didn't work then, why didn't it work? And we'll recalibrate, because they have to live somewhere. One thing I would always let them know also before we left to the first meeting was I'd like to work on their behalf as the rental agent, so that they knew that they had somebody working for them and they weren't just scattered all around, because a lot of the times if they're calling you off of a lead on the computer, they're calling a ton of other people. So if you can narrow it down and settle them down to know that you can take them to anything that anybody else can, and you will work on their behalf and have them as a client, they will stay with you definitely more than 50% of the time. So step 6, I would definitely know when to call it quits. Now, I don't look at, one of the things that helped with this was never looking at anybody like a dollar sign. That screws up things. It gets you thinking that you want to close them on something. It just makes your decision making not as on point as it should be. If you look at it like you wanted to do, my goal was to do 4 rentals a month when I first started. Then once I could do that in my sleep, I upped it to 8, and 8 was my new minimum. So if I looked at everybody like that was 1 or 2 or 3 as a number, it wasn't so hard to either call it quits if I didn't think they were actually going to rent somewhere. Some people are just not going to ever be pleased, and you need to know when to call it quits. So that would be my biggest takeaway when I really felt like it wasn't going to work out, to be able to cut the cord. So here's my 4 main questions every time I got a lead. Number 1, price range. Don't just assume that if they're inquiring about a $2,600 apartment or a $2,000 apartment, that's their price range. Because I can't tell you how many countless times I took out somebody and showed them that, but their range was really up to $3,500. And I'll tell you right now, a $2,600 apartment and a $3,500 apartment is way different. So if they're okay with spending that, they will never end up spending the lesser amount. They will always go for more amenities, more something, so that they can spend that higher dollar apartment and they will get the apartment that they want. Number two is that I would always ask them their preferred location. Never assume that just because they ask for an apartment in one certain area, that they're gonna like that area the most. They might just be experimenting, but they really want an apartment over here. So if you really listen to them, you know that's where they really wanna live. So focus on that area the most and exhaust all the opportunities in that area before moving on. Number three was that ask them if they have any pets. And I will tell you, this is the biggest make or break, because I tell you, it happened to me a few times and it will never happen again, that I had taken somebody to an apartment. Maybe it wasn't the apartment they called on, but I had scheduled a few other ones and we went and they loved it and they were about to sign. And then at the end of the day, when we were about to write checks and sign, that apartment did not take dogs, say, and they had a dog, they had a pit bull even, and we just couldn't get that apartment, and now we had to start over. Now, the fourth one is very important as well, move-in date. Move-in date, if they have just don't assume that their move-in date is the one that lines up with the apartment that they inquired about. Because a lot of times people don't always know that, so check with them, because the worst thing is if you go to an apartment that's available, say in April, but they're looking in February, they're not gonna hold that apartment, or they're looking for a February move-in, they're not gonna be able to move in if that apartment's available in April. You gotta read the fine print. Alternatively, if they're looking to move in in March and that apartment is not being vacant until April, they can't move into that apartment. So move-in date is a huge one. So my numbers in doing this, in the first 9 months, the first year I did it, it was a full 9 months, and I made $65K, and that was $130K of gross commission, but I was on a 50-50 split. The second year, it went up to $129K, because now it was a full year and I knew what I was doing, and that was on a 60% split. So the GCI of that year was $215K. The third year on my side, because I was at a 70% split now, was $179K from doing rentals, and my minimum was doing 8 rentals a month. So I was getting smarter, getting more higher dollar apartments, and at a better split. Even if you're not in a major metropolitan area, I know that around New York City and the boroughs, you can definitely do this. However, I'm sure that somewhere around you can find these higher dollar apartments that will give you a fee for bringing clients. And the reason that this moves right into and will naturally help you grow into a great real estate career is because of the following. Renters will turn into buyers, they will save up money and buy property, and then buyers ultimately turn into sellers, and they sell their first place and they upgrade into a bigger place or into a house. So this is how I was able to make a 6-figure income in just my first and second and third year in real estate, and kept growing since then. And I was able to set my own schedule. And still, as you know, I was going on auditions during the day and being able to set my schedule, set appointments in the evening and on the weekends, and work as much as I wanted to, make as much money as I wanted to. This was all while I was able to focus on an acting career at the same time and have the flexibility and just be able to set my appointments for nights and weekends and be able to focus on auditioning and acting when I wanted to. So I eventually grew into sales, but this is how to make money right off the bat as soon as you start in real estate within your first year. Thank you so much for listening. Again, follow on Instagram. I post there pretty much daily, and share this with anybody you would like to if you feel like it's good content and good advice. Take care.